Hey, Bill O'Reilly here. Welcome to the No Spin News, Wednesday, February 25th, 2026. Stand up for your country. Big victory for the Republicans last night in the State of the Union. Not a partisan statement, based on facts. We'll prove it to you. And we have a Democrat and a Republican to react to what I'm saying and to what President Trump said. And that is a talking points memo this evening. So advantage GOP, because the momentum has shifted, at least temporarily, into President Trump's zone. Now, the speech was 1 hour, 48 minutes, the longest State of the Union ever. Only William Henry Harrison gave a longer speech. It wasn't called a State of the Union. It was an inauguration speech. And then he died after he gave it because he caught pneumonia. So he was outside, it was freezing, and just William Henry wouldn't stop. You can read about that in Confronting the Presidents. But anyway, the longest State of the Union. And it wasn't boring. I thought it would be. And it wasn't. Because what the Trump speechwriters did was kind of lay traps for the opposition. And they spent much of the time denigrating Democrats rather than propping up Republicans. But it worked. Let us walk through it. So about an hour and 20 minutes was spent on domestic policy. All right? And that's the key. Because people are feeling squeezed financially. So, the president came out and said, and they all do this. Every president does it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Okay. Standard issue. The last 30 minutes was spent on a little foreign policy, but other things. But about 15 minutes in, the tone of the speech changed from here's what Republicans are going to do to here's what Democrats have done. Very, very important for you to understand this. Okay? So it was, you may not like all of the Republican policies, but these people, the Democrats, are way worse. That will be the theme for the next 18 months till the midterms come. Okay, so the president, as he always does, wraps himself in the flag. Patriotism, because patriotism is very emotional. Roll the tape.
But now we're winning too much. And I say, no, 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 you're going to win again. You're going to win big. You're going to win bigger than ever. And to prove that point, here with us tonight is a group of winners who just made the entire nation proud. The men's gold medal Olympic hockey team. Come on in.
Okay, so it was predictable that that would happen, and that is a feel-good moment. Here's the most frustrating thing. I couldn't see how the Democrats were reacting to that because the camera was not on that crew. And I expected some of the reporters in the room would write about how the Democrats reacted to the hockey team coming in to the rapturous applause on the part of the president's supporters. Nothing. We couldn't find anything. We don't know. I'm embarrassed for my profession. We don't know how the Democrats reacted to having the American hockey team go in there. It's maddening. And I was watching it last night. I said, where is the react shot on the Democrats? Where is it? It never came. It's stunning because that is important. Okay? All right. So the president, he basically was telling the American people, and some of them obviously don't believe it, that this is the golden age of America. We're in it. Up to you. Up to you. Now, that people who hate Trump, they'll never believe anything he says. People who love him will believe everything he says. But the big middle, up to you. Do you think it's the golden age? I think we have momentum in this country. I do. Golden age, not yet. Okay. So the key moment in the whole thing, and this was a well-laid plan, and the Democrats should have anticipated something like this was going to happen. Roll it.
One of the great things about the State of the Union is how it gives Americans the chance to see clearly what their representatives really believe. So tonight, I'm inviting every legislator to join with my administration in reaffirming a fundamental principle. If you agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Democrats didn't stand. Okay? If I were a Democrat, I would have stood. Because under the Constitution, the first duty is to protect Americans. Democrats didn't stand. Trump knew they weren't going to stand. And he scolded them. Roll the tape.
Isn't that a shame? You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals.
All right, and then you have Congresswoman Omar, Minnesota, and Tlaib of Michigan screaming at Trump, screaming that he's killing Americans, on and on. This is not a good look for the Democratic Party. These radical members of the party are damaging the Democrats among independent voters. Radicalism is not what the majority of Americans want. And these are these are people who want to just blow up everything. And to see them scream at the president doesn't help the Democratic Party. And that's becoming more and more common. Now, there is no leader. There's no Democratic leader. So Schumer is the top guy in the Senate. Jeffries is the minority guy in the House. They're ciphers. They get run over. In fact, Cortez is going to challenge Schumer, who I don't think will run again. She'll beat him in New York. She'll beat Chuck. Okay, because it's New York. So there's no leadership within the Democratic Party. None. Trump knows that. The last effective Democratic leader was Nancy Pelosi. And here's what Trump said about her. Go.
As we ensure that all Americans can profit from a rising stock market, let's also ensure that members of Congress cannot corruptly profit from using insider information. They stood up for that. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Did Nancy Pelosi stand up if she's here? Doubt it. Pass the Stop Insider Trading Act without delay.
So Nancy Pelosi worth about $300 million. Okay. And she was there. But of course, once again, a camera couldn't find her. Boy, that was poorly shot. Whoever was in charge of that, awful. Because that camera should have been right on Pelosi on that one. Okay, so then Trump knows he has momentum. And here's an aside. I'm a professional broadcaster, as you know. Donald Trump spoke for nearly 2 hours. He did not stumble once. That's almost impossible for a human being to do. He rode right through that whole thing. Now, yeah, he rehearsed it, but 2 hours? Everybody stumbles, not him. Then he goes after the Democrats' signature achievement, Obamacare. Go.
I'm also confronting one of the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing cost of health care caused by you. Since the passage of the Unaffordable Care Act, sometimes referred to as Obamacare, big insurance companies have gotten rich. That's why I introduced the great health care plan. I want to stop all payments to big insurance companies and instead give that money directly to the people so they can buy their own health care, which will be better health care at a much lower cost.
All right, so you can see he's dismantling the opposition step by step, and it was effective. The president does exaggerate. Everybody knows that. CNN spent all his time fact-checking him. Some of the fact-check was accurate. Some of them wasn't. You can manipulate crime stats, economic stats all day long. It's easy to do. I'll just give you one example. So the president says in the last 3 months of 2025, inflation was 1.7%. It was 2.4. But he's got his own numbers and he can trot out something. I don't even pay attention to that anymore. I know what inflation is. It's running a little over 2%. This isn't bad, but not bad. Okay. Now, in the end, it got down to the point where the Democrats didn't know what to do. And you could see that when they walked out of the chamber, that they were in disarray. So now, here's what you can expect. Epstein. You think it was bad before? Now it's every time you turn around, it's the Democrats, Epstein, Trump, even though there's not a shred of evidence. Not a shred. Okay? You're going to hear it and hear it and hear it. And CNN kicked it off last night, right after the speech. Go.
He didn't make any mention of Jeffrey Epstein during that speech, despite the fact that there were some survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's in the chamber.
Many were.
What did you make of that moment?
Well, it was, again, I don't even know if that was State of the Nation speech.
I don't know what she's talking about. Collins, he didn't make any mention. Why would he make any mention of Epstein? Why? I mean, she's just, I used to have respect for her. No longer. She's a hack. And CNN, I don't know what the deuce they're doing over there. They go down and down and down and down and down. They don't care. They don't care. No semblance of fairness whatsoever on the network. None. Okay. Finally, the midterm election is, as I said, a much more contained than a presidential election. But what Trump did last night was he put down a marker. No matter how you look at Republicans, and he's talking to independent voters now, they're worse. So we gave you a tax cut. They want to raise taxes. We're protecting Americans from illegal alien criminals. They don't want to do that. On and on and on, one after the other after the other. That will be the theme for the next 8 months. And that is the memo.